In the far eastern valleys of Bhutan, where mountains cradle the clouds and rivers whisper through age-old forests, lies a place of quiet sanctity, Jamyang khyentse, a land steeped in devotion where faith flows as naturally as the wind. This year, thousands of devotees gathered here for a rare and profound spiritual event, the Pelin Chokor empowerment bestowed by His Eminence Dzongsar Jamyang khyentse Rinpoche. The Pelin Chokor, a treasure teaching of Pema Lingpa, one of Bhutan's greatest treasure revealers, carries the blessings of wisdom, clarity, and the transmission of sacred syllabus that awaken mind's deepest potential. Pema Lingpa, the luminous saint of the 15th century, was not only a treasure discoverer, but also a beacon of the Bhutanese spiritual lineage, revealing teachings hidden by Guru Padma Sambhava himself, to be found when the world most needed them. And now, centuries later, in the land of his own birth, the legacy lives on. Through Rinpoche's blessings, the timeless connection between teacher and disciple, past and present, continues unbroken.
Well, Pema Lingpa is one of the greatest tertuns. Like they say, there's those 5 king tertuns, so he's one of them. So one of the most important treasure discoverer, emanation of Guru Rinpoche, and so that brought out those his teachings, Guru Rinpoche's teachings, for us people of the modern time. So I thought it was really important. He's also the incarnation of the omniscient Longchenpa, so there's also a very special connection there.
Prime reason was my teacher. It was giving this empowerment, and I thought this is my opportunity.
Hello, Kuzampo. My name is Solomon Nubu. I'm here at Ramja right now for empowerment of Pema Lingpa. So I'm super happy to be here, especially for Pema Lingpa's connection, and super blessed to be around.
I think it is very apt and perfect, the blessings, the teachings that Rinpoche has bestowed upon us here. Precious reminders that in such tumultuous times, how we can, if we are able to center ourselves and be aware, I think we can draw strength and clarity from within. And with that, I think we can really, literally dispel whatever darkness seems to surround.
You forget everything. All the worldly concerns doesn't matter any longer. You're there for this event. And you don't have to try even. It just happens naturally.
In this episode of Himalayan Tales, we journey into this extraordinary gathering to listen, to learn, and to witness the living spirit of the Dharma that continues to illuminate the Himalayas.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to Himalayan Tales. I'm Tenzin Dema, your host. Today, we're truly blessed to have someone really special with us. We have the rare privilege of welcoming His Eminence Dzongsar Jamyang khyentse Rinpoche, one of the most revered Buddhist masters of our time, a teacher, a scholar, and a filmmaker, whose wisdom and compassion have touched countless lives around the world. Rinpoche, on behalf of Himalayan Tales and on behalf of all our viewers, we'd like to extend our deepest respect and heartfelt gratitude for your time and presence today, Rinpoche. It is an absolute honor for us to be able to have this conversation with you, Rinpoche. Rinpoche, everyone knows that recently you have graciously bestowed the Pelin Chokor empowerment at Ramja Trashyangsi and also Longchen Rabjong collection in Bhutan last year. So many devotees from far and wide had gathered for that precious teaching. And also some of the people I personally know from Australia had traveled all the way from there to take part in the recent teaching at Trashyangsi. As the teachings of the Himalayan region travel far and wide, they not only touch those in the region, but also touch the global diaspora, offering them with a spiritual anchor. In Western Australia alone, there is a large community of Buddhists there, many of whom are from Bhutan and other Himalayan regions. And surely Rinpoche, people there might have been really interested to attend the empowerment, but they couldn't have due to some circumstances. So my question to Rinpoche is, Rinpoche, would you ever consider giving empowerment such as Pema Lingpa or Longchen Rabjam there one day to help the people in maintaining their spiritual connection while they live far from home?
Okay, well, first of all, thank you for asking me to do this. And also all your introduction, I don't know whether those are true with me or true of me, but anyway. Maybe in parts, because I think this so-called cycle of teachings or Pema Lingpa or Longchen Ramjam or any other great masters, sometimes we do those things just to preserve the lineage. For the individual practitioners, they don't have to have the whole cycle. So for instance, like Pema Lingpa, they may choose to do just Lama Nurbu Jamso or Shito Kyunzang Gongdu, and just that alone, it has everything. You know, sometimes we give this cycle of teachings. It's like the whole package, so to speak. But it doesn't mean that there are small parts, or small is maybe not the right word. It has its own complete path, you know. Same with the Longshenpa, same with the Jamyang Lingpa, same with all the masters. Now, the reason why I say this is because, you know, setup is a little bit different. In Australia, people are busy. People need to do all kinds of things. In Bhutan, till recently, you know, I don't know whether I should say people have time, but anyway, you know, doing this kind of thing is very much culturally, you know, it's a cultural fabric almost. So, and then there's all these practitioners like Gomchen, Animis, and Gelong, and all of that. So, there's that. Whereas in Perth, or I don't know, anywhere else, whether we have that kind of environment, not yet anyway. And it's also not really necessary to have the complete kind of cycle of teachings. Is that what you are asking?
Yes.
Okay.
But Rinpoche, would you consider giving like a shorter teachings there in Perth one day in Western Australia for the people there?
Yes. You know, you mean for the Bhutanese there?
For everyone interested, Rinpoche.
Oh, I see. Well, I have been sort of doing teachings actually, I've been to Australia for a long time. And I used to even have something like a temple. Now I have few groups who practices, and sometimes I visit there. And yes, of course, anyway, the answer is, of course, if there is any kind of interest, why not?
Definitely, we're very interested and we're looking forward to it, Rinpoche.
Okay.
Thank you for that, Rinpoche. Your recent teaching of Pema Lingpa and Longchen Rabjam have inspired many people. Rinpoche, do you think that these teachings can benefit the Westerners as much as they do to those from the Himalayan regions?
This one, yes, definitely. First of all, the whole Buddha's teaching, the teaching itself is not culturally bound. And I don't know, maybe I'm talking too many aspects. But because Buddhism, Buddha Dharma, so-called Buddha Dharma, is not culturally bound, definitely not politically bound, perhaps this is one of the reasons why Buddha Dharma never really took off. I mean, I'm talking about things like Islam, things like Christianity. Because Islam, Christianity, Judaism, it has a lot of political side. It has a lot of, what do you call it? I don't know. Social, I would say. Maybe the word is maybe not the right word. But anyway, Christianity, for instance, rose, emerge almost as a, like a revolutionary, right? I mean, I think I'm quite right to say this. Like most of these Abrahamic religion are very, very intertwined with the social issues at that time, political issues at that time, And within the Christianity and Islam, there's also a lot of things like punishment, rewarding, this is the right to do, this is wrong to do, this is how you get married, etc., etc. Whereas Buddhism, strictly speaking, Buddhism is very much like the way of the life. For instance, like the Buddhist teachings of anicca, which is mitapa in Choke, impermanence, or dukkha, like badly translated like a suffering. So anyway, those things are not culturally bound, right? So what I'm trying to say is Buddha Dharma as itself is really, it's for everyone. You don't have to be adhering to a specific culture. Now so this is in a way as a science, as a teaching, as a way is good thing. But probably, as I was saying earlier, this is also one of the reasons why Buddhism is never ever politically strong. It doesn't have that kind of missionary kind of attitude, okay? But anyway, short answer for your question, yes, it's adaptable for everyone. Now, we need to, of course, make a note of this. As this wisdom tradition of Buddhism traveled to different parts of the world, of course, the local culture, local custom, local habit does interpret the wisdom itself. This is normal. You can drink water in the cup, in your hand, in a glass, however, and this will always influence the water a little bit, so to speak. Of course, the essence of the water is never changed, but this may be possible. So, okay, here again to define my answer, if you were to ask me, would Australian native or a Rwandan native, I don't know, Botswanian native, would they manage to practice Tibetan or a Bhutanese or a Chinese cultured Buddhism? Then, of course, they can, but it's really beside the point. So it's not even necessary because, somebody coming from Botswana, they should do their thing. I hope I didn't make the thing very complicated.
No, Rinpoche,
anyway.
you've answered it just profoundly. Thank you so
Okay.
much, Rinpoche. Moving to our next question. In the recent year, from the Himalayan regions, many people have started moving outside to Western countries, Rinpoche. So from your perspective, how do you see this movement, Rinpoche? Do you think it is purely based on economic reasons, or do you think there's something deeper happening, something spiritually, something karmically?
Of course, as a Buddhist, I would always have the angle of karma. That's like given. That's always going to be there. But, Bhutan is very small, right? I mean, very, very small. I mean, look at some of a giant culture, giant civilization, India, China. They move a lot. They really move a lot. Indian diaspora is just everywhere in the world. I think this question has a lot of angle. You see, I think with the Chinese and Indians, the culture or the civilization is very strong. They have a very big history, big culture. So I'm sure you may have heard, in Canada, even the local Canadians are now begin to grumble that Indians are, Indian presence is very much felt, to put it very mildly. You understand? And the existing immigrant or the existing so-called, the real native Canadians are actually something else, right? They are already feeling a little bit out of place or feeling threatened, maybe. England, all of this. Now, I just never see Bhutanese, for instance, like a Bhutanese. I mean, forget Bhutanese, even Nepali, quite a big amount. But anyway, using Bhutan as an example, Bhutanese going to, let's say, a place like Jackson Heights and really changing the American culture with the Bhutanese culture, I just don't see it. More like the other way around. So this has a lot of implication. I mean, I do think about this a lot sometimes. Of course, there's an economic reason. The world is becoming so messy in one way. On the other hand, the world is supposedly very efficient. When I was growing up, just to travel from Trashigang to Paro takes 2-3 days. Now you can actually literally do, you can manage to go to Perth within 18 hours or something. So there's that. And then, I don't know, this is just so complex, isn't it? Sometimes okay, so there's also something called ideological sovereignty. Identity is such an issue, big issue, is going to be really big as the time goes by. We human beings, we always feel identity is important. I'm a man, I'm a woman, I'm this, I'm that, I'm Buddhist, I'm Christian, I don't know, from the East, I'm from the West, all that. This will be tested. I'm sure you have met Italians and, I don't know, Irish.
I've met a few.
Let's say in New York, for instance. They claim they're Irish, but you don't see anything Irish in them. They're practically American. Now, probably not this generation of Bhutanese who have moved, but our children's children, they may say, oh, I'm from, I don't know, Bidung, or I'm from Barsam, my ancestors, meaning. They may not really have that Bhutanese identity or element. I don't know what kind of amadasi they are going to eat. By then, we are talking in 50 years' time, what kind of amadasi they will eat. It will be all diluted. Of course, it doesn't mean that it won't be delicious or anything. It will be just different. So all of this is going to happen. And I think we will need to accept this. Yes, economy. And I think also for the younger generations, I think they like to be creative. They want to express. And perhaps this is what our country, our government, our think tank, they need to seriously thought through how much should they really, it's very important not to stifle younger generation. You see, younger generation, they want to do this, do that, eat this, travel here, travel there. And with this, within this context, we will have to preserve so-called our culture, our heritage. So these are something that we need to think through.
Thank you, Rinpoche. That leads me to my next question. So as there is a movement from the Himalayan region, people moving from Himalayan region to Western countries, they are taking along with them the Himalayan teachings, Rinpoche.
Mm-hmm.
So along with them, the Dharma is evolving in the West. So Rinpoche, do you think that Dharma will evolve differently in the West as compared to in the East? And if so, what should we be careful not to lose?
Oh, it's already evolving. Definitely in the West. I mean, of course, you can't, but this is one of the things that I repeat all the time. Even in Bhutan, I mean, you guys are very young. My generation, Bhutanese, those who went to Kalimpong, Darjeeling to study, right? Convent and all those missionary schools. So they went to school, like Dr. Graham, St. Joseph, St. George, etc., etc. Now they've been taught a different set of language, let's say English. Language is very powerful, really, really powerful. It really changes the way you think. So, there's a concept called mythos, logos, gods. Okay, I'll give you one example. The Bhutanese, many Bhutanese, my generation, those who got education outside, they just immediately think Buddha is Buddhists' God. That's the only way they can think, because that's the only methodology they have. You understand what I'm saying? So that's the frame they've been given. Within that framework. So immediately, even in Buddhism, forget outside, even in Bhutan or Himalayas, already the way we look at the Buddhist philosophy, Buddhist wisdom, Buddhist, skillful means, we are already looking through a different lens. And that is worrying for Buddhism. If you are a Buddhist stakeholder, this is something that, Buddhism is very small. Hindus, they worry a lot. I know some of the people may feel a little strange, me saying this, but a lot of the time, I have a sympathy with all the Hindus in India, all that, Hindu Rashtra, all of that. I have a little bit of sympathy because, yes, of course, a lot of people think they're all right-wing, blah, blah. But, they're trying to preserve Hindu value. But, Buddhism is very small.
Thank you so much, Rinpoche. Now, talking about evolving and Western culture, Rinpoche, I personally live in Australia, and I've come here for my holidays, and I've been there for around 3 years now. And I've noticed that, Rinpoche, everything is so fast. There are so many distractions around, so many commitments, and the time constraint. It's too much pressure. But when I come here in Bhutan, I feel there's a different sense of peace, calmness, and tranquility here, Rinpoche. So my question is, how can one use the strategies from Dharma to stay grounded in a fast environment, such as in Western countries?
Important question. I don't have a fixed answer for this one. But at the same time, the Buddhist teachers, stakeholders, we need to really learn how to package in a different way. As you said, Bhutanese are very, very community-oriented, right? Even in Australia, they are still very much like this, but they may lose this very soon. Of course, your situation is forcing you to, in places like Hong Kong, Singapore, you don't have time for this. Here you have time to play pool, archery, eat together, have dinner together, all of this, and picnicking together. This is going to be challenged in places like, maybe Australia is still okay. Australia is kind of slow, compared to, Tokyo, Singapore, Dubai. We now need to preserve some of the core value, such as empathy, such as, family value, such as this community, feeling. I think we might have to put some effort in how to preserve those. And I think that's doable. If we could do it and extend 30 years, we can aim to do that, right? And if you ask me how, I think we can already, have that kind of value implemented in with the children. I think for the time being, 10, 15 years is okay. Because I've been to like Jackson Heights, Perth myself. There's still a very, very strong Bhutanese community sense. But that's not going to last long. Because just by nature, even if you wish to preserve. So we need to really prepare to at least preserve 50%. If we can manage to do that, we should be celebrating.
Thank you, Rinpoche, for answering that beautifully, profoundly, and making us aware what we need to do in order to preserve it. Rinpoche, times have changed compared to the olden days. In olden days, I've recently interviewed a Westerner, his name is Ward, and he was mentioning how in his olden times, it was so difficult to get a translated version of a teaching. It was like gold. But now there are so many translated teachings available online. And in Buddhist tradition, especially Vajrayana, it is really important to have a transmission or empowerment before engaging in a certain sacred text. Yet today, it's changed. So many people have translated teachings available online, and few of them receive the transmission. So Rinpoche, how do we see this development in the modern world? What is its impact on the authenticity and the benefit of the practice?
I think when you are talking about things like transmissions, then you are talking about Vajrayana or Tantric Buddhism, which is what we are supposedly practicing in Bhutan, okay? Other than that, like Theravada Buddhism, Charvakayana Buddhism, Mahayana Buddhism, and also a lot of the teachings that we have in Bhutan, we don't really need transmission. So people can actually learn through, AI facilities, whatever. The only thing that people just need to be concerned is these tools are still relatively new, and the data that is being inputted, is still new. So I think people who go through this way, they need to always have a little bit of a skeptical mind, analytical mind. But we have no choice. We have to go through that. And people will use it, of course. It's easier, it's cheaper, emotionally not expensive,
Rinpoche, when you were mentioning about imparting some values into our younger generation, one question popped in my mind. So there are people from our country and also other Himalayan regions working part-time, full-time, taking responsibility for their families, and perhaps raising their young children in a Western country, in a second culture. So what are some of the simple Buddhist practices, or what are some of the teachings and lessons from Buddhism that they can practice and do in order to make them feel spiritually alive?
Yeah, this is again a very important question. I don't know whether I can really give you a satisfying answer, because there's just so many reasons. It's like there's this guy called, I've been reading him. I think he's English. His name is Mark Fisher. What did he say? He said, it's easier to imagine end of the world than it's easier to imagine end of the world than end of capitalism. Something called capitalism that we have now, it's only about 400 years old. So what does this say? It actually says before 400 years or 500 years, human beings survived. Without capitalism, human beings not only survived, human beings did amazing stuff. Angkor Wat, Taj Mahal, Great Wall of China. You understand? These are all before 500 years, right? Yet people survived. But now, we are now in a situation where we cannot fathom a world without capitalism. I'm giving you this as an example because I think we will be learning, I think, okay, so, like individual freedom. Individual freedom and the democracy, whatever, these are a frame. And when I say frame, it's like these guys taking photos. Like when you take a photo, you have something called framing. And when you frame, you are always making two decisions: what to be included and what to be excluded. Because you can't fit everything anyway, so you have to choose. The problem now is there's a dominating culture, mainly the West. They have given us a frame. And they're saying that all the things that they have excluded are not necessary and they're bad almost. This is the only way. This is the best way. And this includes capitalism, liberal democracy, etc. Whatever is there in Australia. Individualism, freedom of speech, freedom of this, freedom of that. I don't know. I really don't know. Because what you exclude, there's just so many great things, right? So I think parents, teachers, influencers, I think we have a responsibility to tell our younger generation, yeah, individual freedom is very important, but there's so many other things. That's just one brainwashing. That's just one frame. I would say a lot of the beauty and the greatness of the Bhutanese value is not necessarily coming from an individual freedom. It's really about society, my village, my home, my family, my grandfather, my uncle, my auntie. You understand? So, yes, at times it's painful to do something just for the sake of the family. But then, in it also has this sort of wisdom is maybe too harsh, too big of a word. In it lies also a value. It has its value. It keeps the society very harmonious, very peaceful. Yeah, of course, I'm a big fan of individual freedom because, especially if you want to say something, if you want to paint something, if you want to write something, many times it's also good. Well, all I'm saying is, okay, there's an individual freedom, that's a frame. And when you are framing this way, you are deliberately excluding society. You are deliberately excluding a lot of this. And this may not be right. And this is something we could actually teach. Because what do they say? It's a century of self. Everything is about self. Selfie. Like everything is individual. Me. I don't know how good that is also.
Yes. Thank you, Rinpoche. I'm sure this is going to be beneficial for the people watching and it will click something in them.
Okay.
Rinpoche, I was going to ask, because the time is changing and everything's changing so fast, one of the challenges today is struggling with mental health. There are so many people struggling with anxiety, depression. So from Buddhist perspective, Rinpoche, how can we face and how can we respond to such challenges?
This is very much connected to your earlier question. Because this is the thing. So you want to really cherish your individual privacy. So you deliberately, you spend a lot of money you spend a lot of time, you spend a lot of energy to be alone. And then also people let you be alone. And then suddenly you feel lonely. And then you go out of the way trying to get attention. That's where the social media comes in. So this conflict alone must be driving a lot of people crazy. Because it's like a schizophrenia, right? You want and you don't want. But what's the point of me talking this? Because it's almost like social media is not going to go away. It's to stay now.
But still, for some of those Rinpoche who are trying to get out of this trouble, who are trying to look for a way, what advice would you provide them from the Buddhist perspective, Rinpoche? How to tackle?
Of course, if possible, and I think it's possible to, especially to younger generation. We have a hope for them. Kids, we should really teach them how to put their feet in someone else's shoes. Empathy, so important. And this is doable. Actually, children do this already. It's just when they get older, the situation forces them to depart from that. So this is something that we could do. And empathy is a pillar, sort of backbone or the central pillar of Buddha Dharma. I mean, I would prefer to use the word empathy rather than compassion.
Thank you.
Because the word compassion does seem to have this bit of a hierarchical problem, like the destitute, the lower, poor you, and me, the person who is having compassion.
Yes. Thank you, Rinpoche. Talking about challenges, many people often think that, Rinpoches and Lamas have this really luxurious, calm, peaceful life, they're so tranquil. But they may not realize that even Lamas and Rinpoches have their own share of troubles, difficulties. So Rinpoche, would you be open to sharing a moment in your life where it was very difficult for you and how you got through it and what lessons stayed with you?
Oh, I haven't got through it. I have so much challenges. But a lot of these challenges are also, this is again, your question is very big. Most of your questions are very big. You could be spending hours just with one question. Lama's situation is a bit peculiar. And most of the times, it is Lamas themselves to be blamed for putting themselves into this situation. It's a bit like, society a little bit also, especially the younger generation Lamas. Yes, you are right. I mean, not only the Lamas. We often think the dictators, he's a dictator, she's a dictator. And, we think as in a derogatory term, right? Like not a nice thing. Dictator, he's a dictator, he can do whatever he or she likes. That's not true. You try to be a dictator for 1 week. Very difficult. Because, when you dictate, you need a skill. You understand? Even like really, really, drastic way. Because it still requires skill. It still requires a little bit of, you need to be savvy. Anyway, coming back to my point, many times we put ourselves into this position because sometimes we encourage people unnecessarily to have unnecessary, ridiculous, unfounded expectations and assumptions, and that's not good. It really, really. So, for instance, let's say you're a Lama like myself. I'm supposedly a Lama. I know what I can do, and there are a lot of things that I can't do. Now, if I present myself, the way I wear, where I sit, on the throne or on a, I don't know, what I wear, if that sort of triggers people's expectation, higher or the more, I don't know, unfounded than what you can deliver, then we are putting our own we are putting ourselves into a prison. So this is something that the lamas, I don't know, somehow we end up always doing it. Something that especially the younger lamas to be aware.
Thank you so much, Rinpoche, for that. Rinpoche, having talked so much about the global diaspora and westernization evolving, I'd like to ask Rinpoche, what do you personally wish for the Himalayan people right now in Western countries, Australia, United States?
There are a lot of things, but I think we don't have much time. I would say they should never forget modernization is not westernization. That's all I can say for now.
Yes, thank you, Rinpoche. I'll quickly try and wrap this up, Rinpoche. Having a really talented filmmaker with us, we know Rinpoche has produced some really great films, so we couldn't resist asking some question. Rinpoche, I have attended the screening of the movie Pick at the Crossing at Sydney in Enmore Theatre, and I had one question, Rinpoche. There's this main character, his name is Tolom, and then he passes away, and then he's wandering, and there's this sadhu, he's wearing white cloth and red turban, and he clicks his finger, and he's trying to guide Tolom and show him the way. But every time Tolom seems to wander off and not being able to follow the sadhu. But later, there's this lady in Kira, she's wearing a hat, Tolom easily follows that lady. So Rinpoche, what is the significance in this contrast, and what's the message that it conveys?
I think you put it in a much better way than I intended. But anyway, my point I was trying to make is in so-called this kind of transitory situation, Bardo, okay, things shift a lot. So supposedly that sadhu has now shifted to this beautiful lady. That was the point. I guess you can always say the bodhisattvas, they will try their best to really draw the attention. So such as like snapping the finger.
Thank you, Rinpoche. Coming to our last question for today, Rinpoche, would you like to give us a sneak peek into your next film project? What themes are you exploring, and what can we expect from your next release?
Well, you know, I've been known for making really, really sleepy films. He was working for me. My films are good for those who have insomnia. Anyway, I must say I've been really, really lucky. I have some really good people who support this kind of a very independent, obscure film. But this time I made a film in Nepal, and I really wanted to do something a little bit more normal, a little bit more conventional, because I also don't want to be outcast by these guys. These guys will think, oh, his films, we never understand what he's talking
your
about.
Films are amazing.
Yeah. Anyway, so this time I have made something little bit more conventional, also more conventional way. I did use lighting. I did use a more tighter shot and a faster editing. So all of that, just to move the story. Anyway, the story is about, maybe this is good for the Himalayan audience. It's about the changing of our value, you can say. Anyway, it's based on there used to be a profession called Behrupiya in India, Nepal. They paint themselves, or they dress themselves as gods, or anything, whatever people request. They are entertainers. Sometimes, like a family would ask them to appear as Lord Ganesh, and then they will wear a mask, and then they will appear in the family, bless the family, etc., etc. I think this is thousands of years of tradition or a custom. Of course, you know, this kind of art or this kind of, I don't know, culture is dying, almost dead. I mean, it still exists, maybe part of India. So my story is based on somebody who is doing that. And in an end, as I said, he has a lot of challenges because there's stuff like Labubu, stuff like Pokemon. Children are normally interested with a masked dance. So it's about that.
Thank you so much, Rinpoche, for sharing that with us. We are very excited and eagerly waiting for your next film.
Okay.
And that brings us to the end of our conversation today. Rinpoche, thank you once again on behalf of Himalayan Tales and on behalf of all our viewers for your time and presence today. And thank you for sharing your wisdom with us. We are very grateful that we will be able to share this with everyone. And to all our viewers who will be watching us, thank you for watching, and do not forget to like and share Himalayan Tales, and keep watching us for more stories, more conversations, and more inspirations. Thank you.
Okay.